Those years in Kewannee, I should say the first years, is about all I was there, were hard. My mother used to go to the school where Shelby was enrolled in kindergarten and feed him lunch every day in the schoolyard because she was afraid he wouldn't eat or would go without a meal. So she would bring something for him to eat in school. My brother Eddie was humiliated. He was 11 years old and he came to school with his city clothes. All the boys were wearing overalls or blue jeans and boots. And they laughed at him because he had dress shoes and a shirt, you know, with a collar. He came home, he was in tears. "Mother, you've got to buy me the right clothes for school. I can't go back to school dressed like this." So my mother went to JCPenney's and bought him some blue jeans and overalls and flannel shirts and boots so he could be like the other boys. The times were difficult because financially we were on very shaky feet. And there was nothing to relieve the stress. My father came home on the weekend and he would be busy with organizing and doing things in the store to make it a viable business. One of our first customers was an African-American lady. Our employee said, "Oh, Mrs. Lee," they called her Mrs. Lee because my father named the store Lee's Smartwear. My father's name was Leo, he hated Leo, he always went by the name of Lee. So it was Lee's Smartwear. So they called my mother Mrs. Lee. The employee said, "Oh, Mrs. Lee, you cannot allow her to go in a fitting room. She can't try on clothes." My mother, who wouldn't lose a sale if she had a stand on her head, said, "What do you mean?" And she took the lady into the fitting room and fitted her with an outfit. And, but as enthusiastic as my mother was, she was gloomy about our future. My father kept pepping us up, and my attitude was, look, if we did it, we're going to do the best we can. And we did. Fortunately, a misfortune worked in our favor. I shouldn't say fortunately. September 1941, a fire broke out downtown Kewannee in the main big department store, which is Kewannee Dry Goods. It was the finest store in town. The fire spread rapidly, the way the winds were, and we could watch from our house. The sky was lit up bright with the flames. One full square block burned to rubble. The governor of Illinois, whose name was Green at the time, declared it a national emergency, and we had National Guard there, and many people were wiped out. Well, the merchants decided they got to start all over again. But Kewannee Dry was not going to rebuild. The employees, who had a vigorous ladies' department at Kewannee Dry, came to us looking for jobs. They also came with a clientele. So my father hired one of the women. She brought her clientele with her, and things began to look up. She was a woman who was very well known in town. She was a native, and Irma was her name. And that was our first little stroke of luck. The next thing was December 1941, we went to war. So the factories began to go around the clock. For the first time, women had jobs. The housewives and the farm wives of the area all had jobs. And what did they do with their money? They bought clothes.